The massive screen in the Imperial Command Center showed a small blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness of space. Admiral Gray stood before it. His four eyes narrowed as he studied the readings scrolling across the display. After commanding the Empire's forces for over 300 years, he had overseen the conquest of countless worlds, but something about this one made his scales tingle with unease. "Just another primitive world, Admiral," said Captain Smith, his junior officer. "Their technology barely lets them reach their own moon. They'll fall like all the others." Admiral Gray's upper eyes remained fixed on the screen while his lower pair glanced at the battle records before him. "Look at these historical records, Captain. Have you ever seen anything like this?" The captain stepped closer, his antenna twitching as he read. His confident expression slowly changed to confusion. "This can't be right, sir. The data suggests they've had over 15,000 separate wars among themselves. That's more than the entire recorded military history of the Empire." "Indeed." Admiral Gray touched the screen, zooming in on a particular continent. "And notice how quickly they advanced their weapons. In just one of their wars, they went from primitive flying machines to dropping world-ending bombs. In 6 years." The captain's skin paled slightly. "But surely, Admiral, our technology is far superior. We've ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years." Admiral Gray clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. "We have ruled because we are stable, organized, and unified. These humans," he paused, bringing up more images, "they are anything but unified. They fight constantly, adapt continuously, and their weapons." He shook his head. "They have more varieties of weapons than we have varieties of food." In the following days, Admiral Gray ordered deeper scans of the planet called Earth. The results troubled him even more. Humans lived in every environment their world offered, from frozen wastelands to burning deserts. They had weapons designed for every possible situation. Their entertainment was filled with stories of war and conflict. Even their games were about strategy and combat. At the next High Command meeting, Admiral Gray stood before the Imperial Council, his decorated uniform reflecting the soft purple light of the chamber. "Members of the High Command, I recommend we reconsider our standard conquest protocols for this species." The council leader, an ancient being with crystalline skin, laughed softly. "Admiral, your caution does you credit, but these humans are barely space-capable. Our scans show they have no shield technology, no faster-than-light travel, and their weapons use primitive chemical propellants." "With respect, Leader," Admiral Gray pressed on, "I submitted evidence that they adapt faster than any species we've encountered. They went from ground-bound to spaceflight in less than 70 years. That's 10 times faster than any other known species." "Your concern is noted, Admiral," the leader said dismissively. "But the Empire has protocols. We follow them. Prepare the standard conquest fleet." As Admiral Gray left the chamber, he ordered a stealth probe to continue monitoring Earth. The images it sent back did nothing to ease his worry. Humans were already working on improved space weapons. They had detected the probe's presence despite its advanced stealth technology, though they couldn't quite locate it. Most worrying of all, they were running military exercises specifically designed to fight enemies from space. "They're preparing," he told Captain Smith as they watched the latest footage. "They know they're not alone, and they're getting ready for a fight. But they can't possibly win," the captain said, though his voice held a note of uncertainty. Admiral Gray's upper eyes blinked slowly. "Captain, in all my years serving the Empire, I've learned one vital truth. Any species that spends its entire history fighting itself will be very, very good at fighting others." The captain was quiet for a long moment. "Should we warn the High Command again?" "They won't listen." Admiral Gray turned away from the screen, his movements heavy with concern. "They believe our technology makes us invincible. They forget that technology is just a tool. And humans," he looked back at the image of Earth, now marked with thousands of military installations. "Humans are very, very good at taking tools and turning them into weapons." As the Empire's conquest fleet began to assemble, Admiral Gray made one final note in his personal log. "May the stars help us all if we've underestimated these humans. They might just be the most dangerous species we've ever encountered." The Imperial fleet appeared in Earth's orbit on a quiet Tuesday morning. 500 massive warships, each larger than Earth's largest cities, emerged from light-speed travel and cast their shadows on the planet below. It was the standard overwhelming force that had brought 1,000 worlds to their knees. Admiral Gray watched from the command ship as Earth's governments reacted to their arrival. He expected panic, chaos, and desperate pleas for mercy. Instead, he saw something that made his scales tighten with worry. Calm, organized preparation. "Sir," Captain Smith reported, "the humans are broadcasting a message to us in over 50 different languages." "Let's hear their surrender," said the fleet commander, who had overruled all of Admiral Gray's warnings. The message played throughout the command center. A simple human voice spoke clearly. "To the unknown vessels in Earth orbit, we are ready to discuss peaceful contact. However, any hostile action will be met with full military response. We await your reply." The fleet commander laughed. "Brave words from primitives. Send the standard ultimatum." The Empire's message was simple: surrender or be destroyed. It had worked countless times before. The response came back just 3 minutes later. "No." The fleet commander blinked all 6 of his eyes in surprise. "What do you mean, no?" "Play the rest of their message." "Sir," said Captain Smith, that was their entire response. Just no. Admiral Gray studied the tactical displays. While the Empire's fleet had been sending its message, the humans had been busy. Their military satellites had all changed position. Their ground-based weapons were tracking the Imperial ships. Most surprisingly, hundreds of small spacecraft had launched and taken up defensive positions. "Sir," a sensor officer called out, "the humans are using our own scan signals to map our fleet's weak points." The fleet commander waved his hand dismissively. "Impossible. Their technology is too primitive to." An alarm blared. On the main screen, they watched as a small human craft deliberately flew into their scanning beam, traced it back to its source, and mapped the entire sensor array of an Imperial battleship. "They're learning our technology by letting us scan them," Admiral Gray said quietly. "Every moment we wait." "Enough." The fleet commander stood, launched the first wave. "Show these primitives what real power looks like." Admiral Gray watched as 500 Imperial fighters streaked toward Earth. Then he saw something that made his blood run cold. The humans had positioned their ships in an unusual formation. It looked chaotic, random. "Pull them back," he shouted. "It's a trap." Too late. The human ships scattered in what seemed like panic. The Imperial fighters followed, breaking their tight formation. Suddenly, the humans spun their ships around. Hidden weapons pods opened. The fleeing ships turned out to be heavily armed. "Impossible," the fleet commander whispered as 30 Imperial fighters disappeared in balls of fire. "Their weapons, they're using gravity-based weapons. They can't have that technology." "They didn't," Admiral Gray said grimly. "Not until they scanned our ships and figured out how our own weapons work." In less than an hour, the battle continued. The humans lost many ships, but they made the Empire pay dearly for each loss. They used tactics no one had seen before, ships playing dead only to explode when Imperial vessels came close, missiles that followed Imperial energy trails, and strange electronic attacks that confused Imperial targeting systems. "Maybe now," Admiral Gray said to the shaken fleet commander, "you'll listen to my warnings about these humans." Before the commander could respond, another alarm sounded. The tactical display showed hundreds of new signals launching from Earth. "Those aren't ships," Captain Smith said, his voice filled with awe. "They're some kind of space-modified ground weapons. The humans adapted their existing missiles for space combat." Admiral Gray watched as the new weapons approached. "Send a warning to High Command," he ordered. "Tell them." He paused as he watched a human missile tear straight through an Imperial destroyer's shields using a completely unexpected form of attack. Tell them we're not fighting primitives. We're fighting the most dangerous species we've ever encountered. The Empire's first day of combat against humanity was coming to an end. It had not gone as planned, and Admiral Grey knew, deep in his core, that this was only the beginning. The real war hadn't even started yet. 3 days after first contact, the Empire launched what they thought would be their final attack on Earth. 1,000 warships, their hulls gleaming in the sunlight, moved into attack formation. The fleet commander had been replaced after his earlier failure, and the new commander was determined to crush the humans quickly. Admiral Grey stood at his usual post, watching the tactical displays with growing concern. The humans had been busy during the short break in fighting. Very busy. "Sir," Captain Smith reported, "the humans have salvaged parts from our destroyed ships. They're already using them." On the main screen, they could see Earth's defenses. The humans had taken Imperial shield technology and modified it in ways that made Admiral Grey's scales itch. They weren't using the shields as barriers. They were using them as weapons. "All ships, begin the attack," the new fleet commander ordered. "Show these primitives the full power of the Empire." The Imperial fleet surged forward, weapons charging. But the humans had learned from the first battle. This time, they were ready. Enemy ships approaching from behind the moon. A sensor officer shouted. Admiral Grey leaned forward. "That's not possible. Our sensors would have detected." "They're using our own destroyed ships as cover," Captain Smith explained. "The human ships are hidden inside our wreckage." The battle exploded into chaos. Human ships burst out of their hiding places, firing weapons that combined Imperial technology with Earth ingenuity. They had taken the Empire's energy weapons and paired them with their own missile systems, creating hybrid weapons that cut through Imperial defenses like they weren't there. "How are they doing this?" the fleet commander demanded. "These tactics make no sense." Admiral Grey watched as a group of small human ships performed an impossible maneuver, using Earth's gravity to slingshot around the planet at speeds that should have torn them apart. "They're not following any known military doctrine. They're improvising." The Imperial fleet's rigid formation began to break apart as human attacks came from all directions. They had even turned space debris into weapons, creating clouds of artificial meteors that shredded Imperial ship sensors. "Sir," Captain Smith called out, "the humans are broadcasting something to our ships." The message played throughout the Imperial fleet. "Your shields have a weakness at the power transfer points. We found it. We exploited it. We've shared this information with every military force on Earth. You cannot win this way." The fleet commander slammed his fist on his command console. "Impossible. They couldn't have learned our technology so quickly." But the evidence was right in front of them. Human weapons were now targeting the exact weak points in Imperial shields. Ships that had seemed invincible were now vulnerable. "Look at this," Admiral Grey said, pointing to a tactical display. "They're not just copying our technology. They're improving it." On the screen, human ships were using modified Imperial shields in ways the Empire had never considered. They were overlapping them, creating moving walls of energy that trapped Imperial ships. They were pulsing them to create weapon effects. They were even using them to hide Earth itself from Imperial sensors. "We have to retreat," the fleet commander finally admitted. "We've lost too many ships." As the Imperial fleet pulled back, Admiral Grey received a private message from Earth. It was short but made his blood freeze. "Thank you for the technology lesson. We'll be ready for your next attack, and we'll have some surprises of our own." In the aftermath of the battle, Admiral Grey wrote his report to High Command. "The humans," he wrote, "have done what no species has ever done before. They have taken our superior technology, and in less than a week, not only learned to use it but improved upon it. They think in ways we don't understand. They fight in ways we can't predict. And most dangerously, they learn from every encounter." He paused before adding his final thought. We didn't find a primitive species to conquer. We found humanity. And we may have made the biggest mistake in Imperial history by attacking them. The Empire had lost its first major battle against a primitive species, but Admiral Gray knew this was just the beginning. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were getting stronger, and they were preparing something big. 2 weeks after the Empire's failed attack, Admiral Gray stood in shock before the tactical display. Human ships had appeared deep inside Imperial territory, striking supply lines and military bases, not just in one place, but in 30 different locations simultaneously. How did they get past our border defenses? The High Command leader demanded during an emergency meeting. Admiral Gray studied the attack patterns. They didn't, sir. They copied our jump drive technology, but they're using it differently. He pointed to the display. Look here. They're making multiple small jumps instead of single large ones. It makes them harder to track. The Empire had always used jump drives for straight-line travel between stars. The humans, in just 2 weeks, had turned them into a tactical weapon. Sir, Captain Smith burst into the command center. The humans, they're attacking in a way we've never seen before. The tactical display told the story. Human ships would jump into an Imperial system, cause chaos, and disappear before the Empire could respond. They weren't trying to hold territory. They were using hit-and-run tactics that the Empire's massive ships couldn't counter. They're using something they call guerrilla warfare in space, Admiral Gray explained to the confused High Command. It's a style of fighting they perfected over thousands of years on their own world. The humans had turned their small fleet size from a weakness into a strength. Their ships were faster, more agile, and carried weapons that shouldn't have been possible with their level of technology. Look at this, Captain Smith said, showing footage from a recent battle. A human ship had modified an Imperial shield generator to create a bubble of compressed space. When the bubble burst, it took 3 Imperial cruisers with it. They're not just using our technology anymore. They're combining it with theories and ideas we never even considered. The Empire's response was slow and predictable. They sent large fleets to protect their supply lines. The humans simply avoided these fleets, striking somewhere else instead. We're fighting them the wrong way, Admiral Gray told the High Command. Our doctrine says to mass our forces. The humans split up and strike from all directions. We try to hold territory. They strike and vanish. We follow rules of warfare. He paused. They just find ways to win. Then came the most shocking news of all. Some of the Empire's subject species had seen the human victories. They were beginning to resist Imperial rule. Some were even helping the humans, sharing intelligence about Imperial movements. This is your fault, the High Command leader shouted at Admiral Gray. If we had crushed them immediately as you suggested. If you had listened to my warnings, Admiral Gray replied calmly, we would never have attacked them at all. A new alert flashed on the screen. The humans had struck again, this time at a major Imperial shipyard, but something was different about this attack. They're using our own ships against us, Captain Smith reported in disbelief. They've captured several of our vessels intact. They've learned to fly them, and they're flying them better than we do. Admiral Gray watched as human-piloted Imperial ships performed maneuvers that Imperial pilots had always been taught were impossible. They used the ship's systems in ways the Empire had never imagined. We built these ships to be efficient and practical, Admiral Gray said quietly. The humans, they found ways to make them dance. The footage showed human ships rolling, spinning, and jumping in ways that defied standard military doctrine. They were fighting like humans now, unpredictable, creative, and absolutely lethal. In his private quarters that night, Admiral Gray updated his personal log. The Empire has ruled space for 10,000 years. We thought this made us invincible. We were wrong. The humans don't care about our history, our rules, or our traditions. They care about winning. and they're teaching the rest of the galaxy how to fight back against us. We didn't just wake a sleeping giant. We woke a giant who is now teaching everyone else how to become giants too. The Empire had never faced a situation like this. Their perfect order was being undone by human chaos. Their rigid doctrine was being beaten by human creativity. And for the first time in Imperial history, the mighty Empire was starting to feel afraid. The Imperial High Command gathered in their emergency bunker, far beneath the surface of their capital world. The room was silent as they watched a presentation that made their blood run cold. Admiral Gray stood before them, showing the results of their latest analysis of human history. In the last month, Admiral Gray began, "We've lost more ships than in the previous 1,000 years combined. I think I know why." He touched a control, and the room filled with holographic images of human battles throughout history. "Look at this," he said, pointing to ancient human warriors with spears, then to modern human soldiers. "Every other species we've encountered developed weapons only when they needed them. Humans, they've been developing better ways to fight since they first picked up sticks and rocks." Captain Smith stepped forward with more data. "We've analyzed their entertainment, their games, their sports. Everything they do is about competition and combat. They even fight for fun." The High Command leader's scales had turned pale. "How many wars have they fought?" In their recorded history, Admiral Gray pulled up the numbers. Over 15,000 significant conflicts. Their planet has never been fully at peace. Ever. While we were building one perfect army, they were fighting millions of different ways. The tactical display showed clips from human history. Ancient armies clashing with swords. Tanks rolling across battlefields. Ships fighting on seas. Aircraft dueling in the skies. "That's why they adapt so quickly," Admiral Gray explained. "They've already tried almost everything. When they see our technology, they don't have to figure out how to use it for war. They already know thousands of ways to use it. They just need to make it work." "Impossible," one council member whispered. "No species could survive so much conflict." "That's just it," Captain Smith said. "The humans don't just survive conflict. They thrive on it. They get stronger. Every war teaches them new tricks. Every battle gives them new ideas." Admiral Gray showed their latest battle footage. "Look how they fight. Each human ship fights differently. They have no standard doctrine. In the same battle, they use tactics from their ancient naval warfare, their air combat, even their ground fighting. All adapted for space." The High Command watched as human ships performed maneuvers based on everything from ancient sword-fighting techniques to modern fighter jet tactics. "And now," Admiral Gray continued grimly, "they're teaching other species how to fight like them. The rebellion in the Orion sector. They're using human tactics. The uprising in the Perseus Arm. Human weapons designs." A new alert flashed across the screen. More Imperial ships had been destroyed, this time by a combination of human and rebel forces. "Do you understand now?" Admiral Gray asked the Silent Council. "When we attacked Earth, we thought we were fighting primitives. Instead, we attacked the most experienced warriors in the galaxy. We didn't find a young species. We found an ancient race of warriors who have spent their entire history learning how to fight." The High Command leader stood slowly. "Can we win this war?" For the first time in the meeting, Admiral Gray smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. "Sir, we're not even fighting a war yet. Not by human standards. This," he gestured at the battle reports, "this is them teaching us a lesson. A warning. They haven't even shown us what a real human war looks like." The room fell silent again as the implications sank in. The Empire had ruled through perfect order and overwhelming force. But now they faced an enemy who had mastered chaos, who turned weakness into strength, who learned and adapted faster than anyone thought possible. "We have a choice," Admiral Gray concluded. "We can admit our mistake and try to make peace with humanity, or we can find out what happens when humans decide to fight a real war. And based on their history, we really don't want to see that." The Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had spent 10,000 years becoming the perfect army. Humanity had spent its entire history learning to beat perfect armies. And now, the Empire was about to learn just how dangerous that made them. 2 months into the war, Admiral Gray stood on the bridge of his command ship, watching the unthinkable happen. The Empire's largest fleet base, defended by 10,000 years of fortifications, was falling to a human attack. "Sir," Captain Smith reported, his voice shaking, "the humans aren't just winning. They're putting on a show." The tactical display showed why. Human ships were systematically taking apart Imperial defenses, but they were doing it with a terrible efficiency that seemed designed to demonstrate their superiority. They weren't just beating the Empire's best ships, they were making it look easy. "They're sending a message," Admiral Gray said quietly, "showing everyone in the galaxy that the Empire isn't invincible anymore." The humans had mastered Imperial technology completely, but they hadn't stopped there. They had improved it, combined it in new ways, and created weapons that the Empire's engineers had thought impossible. "Look at this," Captain Smith said, pointing to a new reading. "They've modified their ship's jump drives to create temporary gravity wells. They're using them to trap our ships, just like they learned from their old naval warfare with submarines." On the main screen, a group of human ships demonstrated their new tactics. They appeared from nowhere, their improved stealth systems making them invisible until the last moment. They struck with weapons that ignored Imperial shields, using principles the Empire had never considered. Then they vanished again, leaving destruction in their wake. "Another fleet has surrendered," an officer reported. It was the third Imperial fleet to surrender that day. The Empire's forces were learning that fighting humans meant certain defeat. Admiral Gray received an urgent message from the High Command. More systems were declaring independence. The Empire's subject species had seen the humans win battle after battle, and they were rising up everywhere. "The humans are teaching them," Captain Smith said, showing footage of rebel ships using human tactics, not just how to fight, but how to think differently, how to be unpredictable. A new alert flashed across the screen. The humans had started pushing into the Empire's core systems, but they weren't conquering territory in the traditional way. Instead, they were offering protection to any world that wanted independence from the Empire. "Clever," Admiral Gray muttered. "They're not trying to build their own empire. They're helping break up ours." The tactical display updated again, showing the latest battle. Human ships had surrounded an Imperial fleet 3 times their size, but instead of attacking, they were broadcasting a message. "Your shields are down. Your weapons are locked. You can't escape. But we're not like the Empire. Surrender, and you'll be treated well. Fight." And the message paused as a human ship demonstrated their new weapons on an empty piece of space, creating an explosion that bent light itself. "Well, that's your choice." The Imperial fleet surrendered instantly. In his command center, Admiral Gray watched as the Empire's perfect order crumbled in the face of human chaos. The humans hadn't just mastered space warfare, they had reinvented it. Their ships moved in ways that Imperial captains had thought impossible. Their weapons worked on principles that Imperial scientists were still struggling to understand. "Sir," Captain Smith said, looking at a new report, "the humans are offering to negotiate peace." "Peace." The High Command leader's voice came through the command channel. "After what we did to them." "Yes," Admiral Gray read from the message. "They say they've made their point. They've proven they can beat us. Now they want to talk about building something better than the Empire." The command center fell silent as everyone absorbed this. The Empire had ruled through fear and overwhelming force. The humans had beaten them using creativity and adaptation. And now, instead of destroying their defeated enemy, they wanted to help create something new. "Maybe," Admiral Gray said to the silent room, "this is why they're truly dangerous. Not just because they're the best warriors we've ever seen, but because they can win a war and then choose peace." The Empire's time of absolute rule was ending. A new age was beginning, And humanity, the species they had dismissed as primitives, was leading the way. 3 months after the war began, Admiral Gray stood before the Imperial High Command for the last time. The mighty chamber, once a symbol of absolute power, now felt empty and cold. On every screen, reports showed Imperial fleets surrendering or joining the human-led alliance. "It's time," he said simply, "to admit what everyone already knows. We've lost." The High Command leader, his crystalline skin dulled with stress, nodded slowly. "How? How did they beat us so completely?" Admiral Gray touched a control, bringing up a final battle analysis. "We thought size meant strength. They proved that knowledge and adaptation are stronger. We had rules. They had creativity. We had order. They had chaos. We had tradition. They had innovation." The doors burst open as Captain Smith rushed in. "Sir, the humans have sent a message to every ship in the Imperial fleet." The message played throughout the chamber, transmitted simultaneously to every Imperial vessel across the galaxy. It was simple, direct, and terrifying. "To all Imperial forces, run. Run from humans. Run from what we can do, or stay and learn to live in peace with us. Those are your only options now. You have 1 hour to decide." On the main display, they watched as entire Imperial fleets activated their jump drives, fleeing from human ships. Others lowered their shields and broadcasted surrender signals. The mighty Empire was dissolving in real time. "Look at this," Captain Smith said, showing new footage. On dozens of worlds, former Imperial subjects were celebrating their freedom. Human ships hovered protectively over these worlds, not as conquerors but as guardians. "They're helping everyone build their own governments," Admiral Gray explained, "teaching them how to be independent, how to defend themselves." He paused. "How to be free." The High Command watched in silence as more reports came in. The humans weren't just breaking the Empire. They were helping build something new in its place, a federation of free worlds where every species could govern itself. "We've received their official terms," an officer announced. Admiral Gray read them aloud. "The Empire will be dissolved. All worlds will be free to choose their own path. Those who want to join the new federation can do so. Those who don't will be left alone. And Earth," he smiled slightly, "Earth will share its knowledge with anyone who wants to learn." Share their knowledge. The High Command leader looked shocked. "After we try to conquer them." "That's why they're truly dangerous," Admiral Gray said. "Not because they're the greatest warriors we've ever seen, but because they understand something we never did. Real strength isn't about controlling others. It's about helping them grow stronger." On the tactical displays, they could see human ships moving throughout the galaxy. But they weren't hunting down Imperial forces anymore. They were protecting newly free worlds, teaching them to defend themselves, helping them build their own ships with human innovations. "Sir," Captain Smith reported, "more systems are joining their federation every hour. They're calling it the Alliance of Free Worlds." Admiral Gray watched as the galaxy transformed before his eyes. The Empire had taken 10,000 years to build its realm of perfect order. The humans had shattered it in 3 months and were already building something better from the pieces. In his final log entry as an Imperial officer, Admiral Gray wrote, "Today marks the end of the Empire and the beginning of something new. We thought we were the greatest power in the galaxy. We were wrong. The humans showed us that true power isn't about control. It's about adaptation, innovation, and the willingness to help others grow strong." He looked up at the stars, seeing them differently now. "We came to conquer Earth. Instead, they taught us a better way to live. The Empire is gone. But thanks to humanity, the galaxy is about to become something greater than we ever imagined." Across the galaxy, a new message was spreading. Not a message of fear or control, but one of hope and change. Don't fight the humans. Learn from them. Because they've proven that the greatest power isn't the ability to conquer others. It's the wisdom to help them become better than they were. The age of the Empire was over. The age of humanity had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.